There's a quiet moment many people experience, but rarely admit. You work towards something for years. A degree, a promotion, a relationship, a certain lifestyle. You finally reach it. For a brief moment, it feels right, and then something strange happens. Nothing. Life continues, and a subtle question appears. Is this it? We're told a convincing story about life. Study hard, get qualified, find stability, build security. Once you've done that, you've succeeded. But what if stability was never meant to fulfill you? What if it was only meant to protect you? Protection is not the same as purpose. Think about how we define success. A stable income, a stable routine, a stable identity, a stable relationship. Stability is everywhere. But stability means reduced change, and human beings are adaptive organisms. Why would a being designed for growth ever feel complete in stasis? Look at your own life. When did you feel most alive? Not most comfortable, not most safe, most alive. Was it during calm maintenance or during transformation, when you were learning something difficult, building something uncertain, taking a risk, outgrowing a previous version of yourself? Those moments were uncomfortable, and yet they felt meaningful. Why? Consider something simple. When you first learned to drive, or speak a new language, or commit to training your body, the progress itself was addictive. Not because of applause, not because of money, but because you were expanding. Your capability increased, and something inside you responded. Children don't need to be convinced to grow. They don't negotiate before learning to walk. They don't ask whether development is worth it. They grow because expansion is natural. Growth is not a motivational trick. It's biological. Somewhere along the way, we confuse comfort with fulfillment. And when comfort becomes the highest goal, something inside us begins to shrink. Modern life optimizes for stability, stable income, stable institutions, stable systems. And stability is important. But stability without expansion becomes containment. A safe cage is still a cage, even if it's comfortable. Maybe success isn't the problem. Maybe the problem is how we define it. We define success as arrival, but arrival implies completion, and completion implies no further movement. In biology, prolonged stagnation rarely signals health. It signals decline. This might explain something uncomfortable. Why some people achieve everything they were told to pursue and still feel restless. Why midlife crises happen in comfortable suburbs. Why people with secure lives still feel something missing. Maybe nothing is missing. Maybe movement stopped. What if fulfillment doesn't come from securing outcomes, but from increasing capacity? Not from maintaining what you have, but from becoming capable of more. If that's true, then growth isn't optional. It's foundational. And if growth is foundational at the individual level, what does that mean for our systems? Before answering that, we need to look deeper, because this isn't just philosophical, it might be biological. Every living organism adapts or dies. Species that stop adapting disappear. Cells that stop renewing decay. Muscles that stop being used atrophy. Why would the human mind be any different? Why would a brain evolved for problem-solving, exploration, and pattern recognition be satisfied with permanent stillness? We are the only species that builds tools, not just for survival, but for expansion. We create language to extend memory. We create technology to extend capability. We create systems to coordinate complexity. Expansion isn't accidental, it's structural. Now consider modern society. For the first time in history, large parts of humanity live in relative stability. Food is accessible, shelter is predictable, risk is minimized. From a survival perspective, this is extraordinary. But something paradoxical happens. The safer the system becomes, the more psychological instability appears. Anxiety, depression, existential restlessness. Why? Because survival and fulfillment are not the same thing. For most of human history, survival required growth. You had to adapt, you had to improve skills, you had to learn continuously. Today, survival can be automated, but development cannot. And when development slows, meaning erodes. This might explain why some of the most comfortable societies also report the highest levels of existential dissatisfaction. It's not because comfort is bad. It's because comfort is incomplete. Stability is necessary, but not sufficient. Here's the uncomfortable idea. What if we've optimized our systems for safety, but neglected expansion? What if schools train compliance more than capability? What if careers reward predictability more than development? What if success is defined by maintaining position instead of increasing capacity? If that's true, then the feeling of emptiness after achievement is not personal weakness. It's structural misalignment. You are not broken. The framework might be incomplete. So maybe the question isn't, how do I feel fulfilled? Maybe the question is, am I expanding? And maybe the deeper question is, do the systems around me support expansion or merely stabilize me? Because a stabilized human is not the same thing as a developing human, and a civilization built only for maintenance will eventually stagnate. Growth is uncomfortable. Expansion creates friction. Transformation disrupts stability. But without it, something inside us starts to dim. If fulfillment comes from expansion, and expansion increases capacity, then maybe the purpose of success was never arrival. It was momentum. Thank you for listening to the Entrevolution podcast. We always encourage people to share their thoughts. And of course, if you like the episode, follow us and leave us a review.